Welcome, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to the ANA webinar, Now What? Planning for the Next Crisis. Yes, the next one, by Joe Jaffe. Joe, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Barbie, and welcome, everyone. I think I'm required by law to inform you all that I'm not wearing pants right now, but I guess neither are you, so you can see me right now. Thankfully, you can only see me from the shoulders up. But yeah, these are crazy, unprecedented times, and I suspect many of you have probably been on these ANA webinars every day. Amazing resource from the ANA. Thank you for providing this to everyone. But I imagine you're all probably a little bit fatigued as well, or maybe you're just dealing with a lot of the same old, same old. So I want to give you something different today. I want to give you something, it's a little bit of tough stuff as well. I mean, the presentation is called Preparing for the Next One. It's like, you know, Joe, we haven't even got through this one and you're already trying to, you know, tell us that there's something else coming. Well, there is going to be something else coming. And we need to figure out what to do with it. So for those of you that don't know me, I always say the lucky ones. Hi, my name's Joseph. I write books, and I sail on a ship called the HMS Beagle, where I'm the admiral. It's always great when you start your own business because you can make up your own title. But bad news, we recently sprung a leak. We hit a rather large boulder on the coast of Corona, and turns out we're not alone because you guys are here with us as well. We're all shipwrecked together. But now we need to kind of work together to figure out how to get out of this mess and recognize that, unfortunately, it's not going to be plain seas or plain sailing ahead. So I thought I would start off with a little bit, before I kind of talk a little bit more about myself and also how I am coping and getting through this crisis. We have a little poll question. I think it would be a good level setter to like talk about, what situation are we all in right now? So if you could answer that, that would be awesome. I guess I'm going to vote as well. I'm going to say that I'm an entrepreneur and self-employed as well. And I'll give you guys a few moments to kind of pull that in. Wow, unbelievable. You're all employed right now. It's unbelievable. You're the lucky ones. I would say anyone who's furloughed, laid off, an entrepreneur, self-employed, a freelancer, someone who works in the gig economy or even didn't vote, unfortunately not earning anything right now. So if we could share that as well. I mean, 97% of you have got jobs right now. And I'm sure many of 100% of the 97 want to make sure that you keep those jobs as well. Well, hopefully I can help. So thank you, Bobby, if we could, I don't know if you were able to share that as well, but 97%. So you guys have got a lot of time on your hands, and hopefully you're using that to learn some new skills as well. I said I would tell you a little bit about my background. I started off on the marketing side. I was a brand marketer at a QSR called Nando's Chicken Land. Came to the U.S. in 1997, worked for a number of Madison Avenue agencies, and then I really kind of went out on my own, and I pursued my own entrepreneurial journey. I've now written 5 books. I've started 3 companies, and the most recent one is the HMS Beagle. I've been fortunate enough, even though right now I'm probably in the zero revenue category right now. And honestly, I'm not going to sell anything to you today. I mean, nothing substantial, because even if I was, you probably wouldn't be buying. So I've just decided to focus on how I can better people, how I can help people, and the optimism and the positive approach is clearly what's going to get me through this and what's going to get you guys through it as well. But I've been fortunate enough, up until this point, to achieve my own bucket list items, to write, let alone 5 books, to even write 1 book. I also did something last year, which I've always wanted to do, which is to start teaching. So it's so funny how things work out, because last year I wrote a course called Brand Evolution Strategy, for which I teach online at West Virginia University. What's so interesting about it is when COVID-19 hit, nothing changed for me, absolutely nothing. I mean, there were a flurry of emails and staff meetings, but teaching online is exactly the same now as it was then or a year ago. What's so interesting about this course, and talk about how things work out, my students have to pick a company on death watch. And then they have to help that company survive and thrive. They have to prepare a survival plan and a growth plan. And it's a small elective class. These are actually the Death Watch companies that they chose this year. So we've got WeWork, Avis, Mitsubishi, Kraft Heinz, JCPenney, and Coca-Cola. I wonder if any of you work for any of those companies. What I found really interesting is that, 5 of the 6 logos have red. I guess that red, unfortunately, is the red of blood at the moment. And the hope is that I'll be able to share these survival plans with all of you, through my social media channels. I did something else that I've always wanted to do, which is, they told me, you can see this face with the white hairs and whiskers showing. They said I had a face for radio, and I was determined to prove them wrong. And so about a month ago, I started streaming. And I've branded the show. It's now called Corona TV. And after all of this mess subsides, it will be called Jaffe Juice TV. There is a website, coronatv.show. There is, the future website, which is Jaffe Juice TV. Every second day, I have interviews. I've got, Chad Dick from Eat Big Fish talking about Challenger tomorrow. Yesterday, I had Peter Shankman. I've got Shiv Singh talking about fake news. I literally have the television show that I always wanted, and I've always felt that it boggled my mind with all these billions of dollars spent on marketing that there isn't a single show on CNBC or on CNN dedicated to marketing. Well, guess what there is now? Funnily enough, I'm going straight from this to broadcast live, and if you actually want to see the transition, you can just move over at 2 p.m. I'll be a bit late to either my Facebook page or Jaffe Juice TV and see this in action. But I know that I've pivoted already. I know that when all of this is said and done, I'm going to actually have a new platform, a new foundation, a new brand to be able to build thought leadership off. And I'm saying this for a reason. There's no chest beating here. It's to show you that if any of you wanted to learn a new skill, if any of you wanted to be able to figure out how to use video, how to stream live, this is the way to do it, to just roll up your sleeves and just to do it. I also have a weekly newsletter, and the weekly newsletter is called, The Juice. And again, it's so funny to me because, right now, when I wrote Built to Suck, the book came out a year ago. If you had read that book a year ago, you would be a year ahead of your competitors in terms of recognizing this corporate apocalypse that we're living in right now, the demise of the corporation. We are living in it. We are witnessing it. Everything that I spoke about prophetically has come true. I'm not happy about it, clearly. I don't take pleasure in demise and destruction, but the reality is I could see the writing on the wall. I could see how things were changing. And it's funny because, now I'm being able to really bring this concept of survival planning to light. I wrote an article in my newsletter a couple, maybe about 6 weeks ago, and it was called I Corona. I was still, kind of at that time being a little bit lighthearted about it. And I made this assertion, which is we could have predicted Corona, maybe not in name, but certainly in terms of disruption. Want proof? Well, here's the proof. This is, again, one of those little meme things that get sent around through WhatsApp. But isn't it fascinating from 2000 all the way through to 2020 right now, all of these forces, all of these trends, all of these newsworthy events, some of them viruses, some of them, regimes, etc. We've gone through war, we've gone through all these crises. And guess what? In 2030 and 2040, this list is just going to increase. I then followed it up with another, the typical probably webinar that you've been subscribing to. This is not that. And I basically came up with 10 strategies for companies coping with COVID-19. Now, I'm going to give away a lot of stuff to you today, a lot of stuff. And for the most part, all you need to do to get all of this is just text the word Corona TV to 66866. You'll subscribe to this newsletter. I will send you the newsletter articles that I'm citing. I'll send you some key links. And I'm going to send you a lot more as well. So just remember, coronatv.show is where the stream is. But if you just text the word Corona TV to 66866, and if for whatever reason you're not in the U.S., I think all of you are, you can subscribe through josephjaffe.com. Now, in this article, what I said was I gave 3 pieces of advice. And I said, number 1, survive. Stay afloat. Do whatever you can to keep the lights on. I mean, I feel that that's fairly obvious. But what most companies do, of course, is they do the wrong thing. They cut costs. They lay off people. They basically, attempt to do everything they can to stop the bleeding. But what they don't realize, of course, is that they're hurting their customers in the process. The second piece of advice is plan for the end of this. And I hope, if I was to ask a polling question, I hope that all of you right now are in active planning mode. You already know exactly what you're going to do when you get to leave your houses or apartments. You know exactly you're going to hit the ground running. And the third piece of advice is the pivot, is transformation. Right now, we've been given a gift to be able to actually change our business model, adopt a new revenue stream. We can actually do this right now, but we couldn't do it before. Why? Because we didn't have the time, because we didn't have the money, because we didn't have the talent, because we had all these fires, because we had all these meetings, because we had all these unread emails. Well, guess what? There's no excuse right now not to be able to explore what these pivot scenarios look like. There's one more thing that I've done. I actually have never been so busy for a guy that's earning absolutely no money at the moment, and I've never been happier. So one of the things we did at the HMS Beagle is we decided that we would give away 1 week free of consulting. So every week we would give away another week-long module to give a survival boost to a company. And there's another thing I'm offering you right now. If you need that survival boost, contact us. Through that 66866, we can talk about it. There's only one string attached. And the string attached is that if we do this for you, you have to agree to share some of these insights with everyone else. It's paying it forward. So I'm actually going to show you a full case study for a company, a startup called Cubby. Cubby essentially is the Airbnb of luggage storage. Brilliant idea, right? They were in 11 markets. They were about to launch in New York City, and then, of course, COVID-19 hit. And now suddenly there are no small businesses that are going to store your luggage because, guess what? They're all closed. Now, in this exercise, we actually then took this idea of plan for the long game, right? Plan for the end of this. We actually realized that what we need to do is actually subdivide that into 3 categories. So the first is there's no place like home. Click your ruby red slippers. You wake up, it was just a bad dream. It was a terrible nightmare. Life returns to normal. Road rage is back. We're being mean. We don't return phone calls to consultants anymore. We make our agencies pay in 180 days or more. And we're back to our worst behavior, the worst version of ourselves. There's no place like home. This is business as usual. Well, then number 2 is business as unusual, which is life goes on, but we're elbow bumping and we're not hugging and kissing each other. I guess that will probably be good in terms of all this stuff that's been going on with sexual harassment. So maybe that's a good thing. But in this case, we're wearing our masks. And we're operating, but now what we would say, at least as far as Cubby was concerned, hygiene and sanitation is the new security, is the new privacy. And then the third one is there's no business, right? So business as usual, business as unusual, no business. And so what we did for Cubby is we prepared and we helped fill out what we call the survival planning canvas. That's another thing that you're going to get at the end by texting that number is I'll send you a copy of this canvas that you can actually fill out yourself. So this is what it looks like filled out completely for Cubby. And in this example, we actually realized that they may not be able to continue running their business the way that they planned to. They need to pivot, and they need to pivot now because we're not going to want somebody else to touch our stuff. We want to know that our stuff is in our possession at all times. We want to have an eye or an ear, in terms of being able to monitor it, etc. We really needed to help think of what their existence would look like in this post-COVID-19 era, where we're a lot more obsessed and aware of things like hygiene. And that's what their canvas looks like. We also then prepare a little a summary, what we call the survival journey. And I'll just walk you through that very briefly. So before this, Cubby, this very, very interesting startup, I mean, you get this, right? Airbnb of luggage storage makes complete sense. So they were going along their lives pretty easily, but then they needed to embrace the heresy. They needed to be able to put themselves out of business. They needed to be able to actually envision their demise. How? By actually recognizing that the world had completely changed. So what would that mean for them? Well, it meant that they might actually have to start producing physical cubbies. They might actually have to start producing some kind of a device that you put your luggage in that locks, that you can lock and unlock using an app. But also in this Ring doorbell world that we live in, they would need to be able to show people their luggage or their briefcases or their tog bags, whatever the case may be, 24/7. And so, you know, when we spoke to them about that initially, they said, oh, we can't do that. That's not part of our roadmap. Well, guess what? It is now. And by doing that, we were able to help them discover a new revenue stream, which is, wait a second, right now, there is a bigger opportunity than just being able to drop off your luggage and pick it up 2 hours later. What about this world of messengers? What about the ability to drop off something for someone else? We came up with about 10 new use cases for them. And we actually showed them that Cubby could really operate not only for one person, but actually for two people that needed to pass on something or drop off and pick off something. And so where we ended up is actually recognizing that Cubby could become a champion of small businesses. Right now, small businesses need sampling. They need to be able to offer you 20% off or a slice of pizza. And so we came up with a whole bunch of scenarios, and that's where we ended up. Cubby starting to think about a physical Cubby with security, with a webcam, this drop-off, pick-up scenario, and specifically the quintessential sampling tool. So I just wanted to share that with you as well. Now look, Cubby is in the survival business. Trust me on this one. They are survivalists as well. But I would argue that you are too. In fact, we are all right now in the survival business. And survival is good. We shouldn't think of survival as like being on The Walking Dead. What we should be thinking about is our mortality, envisioning it, but embracing it. Make the most of the time you have on this planet. We keep hearing this whole idea, that says, we're all in this together and life is short. And, well, yeah, it is short, and so are our jobs. And if you want to keep your job, you've got to be a survivalist. What does that mean, being a survivalist? Well, it really means that we actually have to change the way that we think, that we act, that we plan for the next epidemic or the next disruption, because we know it's going to happen. So I believe right now, as a strategic planner or former strategic planner, that we actually need to now do survival planning. And what is survival planning? Well, survival planning is strategic planning in an age of short-termism, risk aversion, and constant disruption. Now, this could have applied to you and your lives and your brand before COVID-19 hit. Quarterly earnings, short-term thinking, we've all become way too conservative. We don't take risks unless it's a sure thing, and we recognize that the only constant is change. But the reality is that it's not a nice to have anymore. I saw this the other day and I wanted to share it, right? Who led the digital transformation of your company? And the answer is COVID-19. We are being forced right now to change. Jack Welch once said that if the change outside, is ultimately greater than the change inside your company, you are dead. Another saying that I like, which is change happens when the pain of not changing is greater than the pain of changing. But that's where we are right now. But let me tell you, there's no silver bullet here. We are in this massive quandary right now as an industry. You are between a rock and a hard place. This is the ultimate catch-22. You are damned if you do and damned if you don't. Should you be selling right now? Should you not be selling right now? The answer is both, and the answer is neither right now. Should you be strategic? Should you be tactical? Should you be short-term? Should you be long-term? Should you be saying we're all in this together? Or should you basically just kind of keep quiet right now? I think the problem as well is that I sometimes feel like this is endemic of our industry, right? If marketers were given the goose that laid the golden egg, they would slaughter it and cook it on the grill, something like this. When we should be thinking about recurring revenue and subscriptions and annuities, we're thinking of that quick hit, that quick fix. We're thinking of just being able to make our quotas or hit our quarterly earnings right now. And that's the quandary right now. Because should we be in fact selling or should we be in fact helping? You keep hearing the B2B mantra right now is helping is the new selling. So you've got Carvana, initiating and innovating contactless buying, because if you really need a car right now, who needs a car right now? Nobody needs a car. Nobody's driving right now. Nobody's allowed to basically leave their home. So to me, I find this message to be somewhat tone deaf. Or Dyson, that manufactured all these ventilators in the UK. And of course, few people said, trust Dyson to make something that looks aesthetically cool with beautiful design. But then they got dinged because of Dyson's position with respect to Brexit. So again, you see this, this idea that we can't win as marketers. You've got United Airlines that basically thanked the government for bailing them out. When times were good, we were greedy. We initiated all of these stock buybacks. But when times got a bit tough, we needed a bailout. Thank you, government, for bailing us out. Then you have Delta actually did a pretty good job by being very proactive, coming out and saying, hey, SkyMiles members, we're going to extend your status for one more year, for another year, and allow you to roll those miles over. Now, I've been an executive platinum American Airlines customer for maybe 15 or 60 years, 2.6 million miles. Crickets, nothing from American Airlines. This is an industry where nobody leads, where they all basically look to the left and look to the right to basically copy one another. And actually, I stand corrected. Yesterday, finally, one full week later, American Airlines comes out and basically says the same thing. Even in times of crisis, we still don't see brands leading. One of the things and takeaways that I would say to you is, don't be in this position in the next crisis. Make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row, that you are ready to take care of your customers, of your employees, of community. Don't be caught with your pants down, which of course, is the situation that we're in right now because, again, we don't wear pants anymore. Even Zoom, this company that is like woke up one morning and they hit the proverbial mother load and Powerball, ended up with massive security issues and flaws. And their customer service has been abysmal. I've started to use them. In fact, I started to use them for my TV show, for Corona TV. And it gave me such problems that I've ended up moving to another platform. I actually did get Zoom bombed. I was giving my presentation, and the next thing for like 30 seconds, I saw hardcore porn in front of me. I mean, it was the best 30 seconds of my life. I'm not going to lie, but I mean, I experienced this as well, and it was a terrible experience thinking, were people on Facebook and YouTube seeing this right now? So you see, even brands that are doing well are not, in fact, doing well. I saw this commercial the other day, and I very crudely took a video of it on my iPhone. I just want to play this for you. This was from AT&T, and it prompted me to say, guys, selling is not the new helping.
Is more important than ever. AT&T is committed to keeping you connected so you can keep your patients cared for, your customers served, your students inspired, and your employees closer than ever. Our network is resilient. Our people are strong. Our job is to keep your business connected.
Thank you, Bobby. So it was just talk. It was just hot air. What exactly is AT&T doing to help me? The very next day, I got a bill from them for $415. And ultimately, to their credit, because I'm I want to be fair. A day later, I did get an email saying, hey, we're all connected, and so late fees are not going to be charged because of the inability to pay, and overages wouldn't be charged as well. But do you really need to advertise that? Do you really need to broadcast this intent? Why not just send me that email straight away? Why not just actually use that money, those media dollars,
what does it mean to be a good neighbor?
It means being there for each
other. I'm
other.
going to show you another example
State Farm
now.
is announcing
State
Good
Farm
Neighbor
that I think
Relief
goes
Program.
one better.
We know that our customers are driving less, which
that.
means fewer accidents.
So State Farm is returning $2 billion to auto policyholders for the period ending May 31st.
And we'll continue making real-time decisions to best serve you, our customers.
Because now, more than ever, being a good neighbor means everything. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Actually just happened to see a chat from Jeremy who said USAA is doing the same thing. Great, that's fantastic. Again, what I would say is you don't need to advertise that. You don't need to chest beat. You don't need to say, look how great we are. It's a fantastic thing that they're doing. It's the least they could do, and it's the least they should do, and it's what everyone should do. I think my message is quite simple. If you've got nothing to say, don't say it. The next example is a brand that actually does have
Staying inside saves lives.
Stay home. Please stay home.
Stay home, stay home.
We're going to have to get creative in here.
I really think togetherness is the superpower of our species.
Let's do it together. We will keep each other company.
I want you to meditate with me.
Let's get ready together.
Come yoga with me.
Each day can be a different thing.
Hi guys, welcome back to another studying video.
But first, some rock and roll. I want you guys to stay home and cook with me.
This is the one you want to get.
I love reading what you guys are up to.
And I'm real into it.
Why not turn on the camera, do it as a group, do it together.
And make some comfort food because we all need that right now.
You can slow the growth of this and save lives.
I think you would all agree right now. I mean, YouTube really has a message, and so many people are turning to YouTube to find things to do, to connect with their kids, to learn new skills, and to take their minds off this terrible, terrible, tragic time that we're all living through as well. Remember what I said, right? If you've got nothing to say, compelling to say, don't say anything. But maybe with those media dollars, you could actually do something with them, like donating it to the Ad Council and being able to push an important message clearly, which is staying at home. You could just show that in a quick 15 seconds. I actually have to say that I find that to be a very disappointing piece of creative from Ad Council. I expect more from them, and I expect something that's a little bit more harder hitting as well. So here's another idea. Why not take your media dollars and donate them not just to the Ad Council? Why not actually use your agencies to create a whole bunch of other pieces of creative that might be able to go out and send different messages, or the same message a different way? Just another idea. And of course, if all else fails, just hit the pause button. Pull your advertising if necessary, or just, I don't know, show babies and bunnies and puppies and take our mind off all of this. Remember earlier I said, like, we're between a bit of a rock and a hard place. Do we sell or don't we sell? Do we change our messaging or not? The thing that got me so riled up right now is that every day when you watch a pod with four commercials, 8 commercials, 12 commercials, we're in this together, we got your back, we know how you feel, and it is just suffocating right now, because I don't think you do know how I feel or how we feel at all. And I don't know that brands actually have a role in telling us that they know how I feel. I do think that brands have a huge role to play in terms of giving back, in terms of helping out, in terms of stepping up. We're going through an unprecedented experience. We all know this, right? People call it the big pause. So what are you going to do during the big pause? How are you making sure that this time has been well spent individually and also professionally and also from a brand standpoint? One of the things you could be doing and should be doing perhaps is to go back and introspect and audit and do a due diligence in terms of looking at everything you were doing. Maybe you'd gone so far down a one-way path, but felt you couldn't backtrack, or you were digging yourself into a hole so deep and you couldn't stop digging. But now you can go back and look at the worst of the old and move that to the best of the new. All these things that you knew you should do or wanted to do but just didn't feel like you had the opportunity. You can keep the best of the old as you should, and you should always reject the worst of the new. So there's a very, very easy part or optimization, right, which is find the stuff that's not working and move it to the stuff that is working. The 4 growth pillars that I wrote about in Built to Suck are digital disruption. Again, we're living through that. It's called COVID-19, the Chief Ovid Officer, right, the COVID. Customer obsession, talent resurrection. Again, employees, customers, you should know that as well. And then I think the 4th one, we see companies like Patagonia doing it. We see so many great examples where this is bigger than purpose. This is bigger than corporate social responsibility. This is about being a model global citizen, a corporate citizen. Being, if you want to be good, you have to do good. That's one thing you could do, filling out this plan, having a growth plan and a growth point of view as well. Another thing, it's what I call the survival instinct. Right now, they talk about marketing being a muscle, but survival, being a survivalist, it's an instinct. The fight, flight, or freeze. Right now, we need to make sure that we are running away from the danger, the pain, and the fear. That's self-preservation. That's just about status quo. We don't want to preserve the status quo unless, of course, the status quo means surviving, like staying alive. But that's table stakes, my friends. What we really need to do is think about running towards the risk, embracing the risk. If we want it badly enough, if we're hungry enough, we're going to, lean in to adaptation. That's how we change. That's how we transform. That's how we pivot. And that, I think, is the message here. Because if you believe that there will be another crisis, if you believe that the only constant is change, then change has to be part of your corporate culture and your DNA. And from a strategic planning standpoint, it has to be an always on, always fluid, always learning, closed loop as well. I wrote this in Built to Suck, and I said, if you describe yourself in 10 years' time the way you did 10 years ago, you're dead. That was before COVID-19 hit. And that's why we have to be asking ourselves right now, are we in fact changing? Are we adapting? Are we evolving? Are we making sure that we are not linear and one track and so predictable from a competitive standpoint, from an ability to resist or be insulated as best as we can with respect to these incredibly disruptive, disintermediating forces of technology, of trends, of extraneous forces, of startups, of entrepreneurial competitiveness, all of the above. What we need right now is a buffer. What we need right now is that bit of safety net. So many companies, maybe some of yours, maybe also entire industries. We look at the cruise industry, the cruise line industry, the retail business, the whole bricks and mortar business. So many of you came into this on life support, a house of cards, cracks in the armor. How do you pull through this right now? You need to be able to have that buffer, that safety net. You need to have that cushion in order to weather the next storm. Warren Buffett actually said, only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. Turns out most of us have been swimming naked, and people are pointing to us, and they're looking at us, and they're laughing at us, not laughing with us. You want the proof? Well, here's the proof, and it's no laughing matter. Henderson Institute did a study, and what they found, they actually looked at all Global 2000 public companies over the last 20 years, and they found that only in 5% of the cases where companies had 20% total shareholder return decline over 2 or more consecutive years, only 5% of them ever returned to those levels, to those earlier levels. That means when you're starting to see 20% decline, 95 of you, 95 of 100 of each or every 100 of you will never get back again or to that same place. So let me ask you a question. We've got one more poll question for you, if we can show that as well. I'm kind of curious as to how confident you are that you will return to your original levels. You know, we hear about this pent-up demand, that everything's going to go back to the way it was. And even better, how many of you think that it's going to be the business as usual, right, versus business as unusual or no business as well? So I'll give you time to maybe about 10 more seconds. These are very telling responses that I'm seeing in front of me right now. So it looks like, if I'm doing my math correctly, that at least half of you are either kind of neither confident or unconfident, if we could show those results as well. In fact, it's unbelievable. Only 6% of you believe are extremely confident that you're going to get back to those levels. Well, what do you do about it? Thank you so much for showing that, Barbie, and we'll keep going. That was very telling, and I appreciate the honesty in terms of your response. Are you scared right now? Are you feeling a little insecure? Are you having heart palpitations? Hold on to that emotion. Hold on to that fear. Because when you face your fears and you embrace your heresy, right, being prepared to put yourself out of business, there is only one outcome, and it is a positive outcome. It is transformational change. You know, the example I always use is, imagine the magazine, you know, the magazine business. If they had attempted to put themselves out of business, how? Obviously, by embracing digital sooner, but also on an equal footing or tier as their terrestrial or traditional business. Yes, there might have been some cannibalization, maybe a lot. But as we all know, you know, the equation 1 + 1 = 3. If the whole is greater to the sum than the sum of its parts, they would have been able to pivot their way to a better place. You need to be able to put yourselves out of business, or someone else will. And that someone else could be a traditional competitor, and they could be one of those fast growth companies, the Amazons, the Googles, you know, the Apples, the Big Five, the Facebooks of the world. Or it could be a startup. Maybe the startup doesn't even exist yet. Or, of course, it could be COVID-19 or whatever the next crisis is going to look like. But if you proactively take this position, if you harness and sharpen your survival instinct, if you're able to put together a survival plan and a growth plan, the answer is a pretty obvious and a positive one. You know, I often say that if you have more than one horse in the race, your chances of winning are exponentially higher. Right now, if you're a CPG out there, you have the perfect opportunity to go direct, to be in the DTC business, the direct-to-consumer business. You have the perfect opportunity to establish profiles, to really immerse yourself in data, to be able to recognize and reward your customers, to wish them happy birthday and happy anniversary, to learn from this data and to better serve them from this data. It shouldn't just be American Express that says card member since. Every single one of us should know our customers, know them, not by data point, but know them by identity, know them by face, know them by social media profile. That's how we can better serve them. And right now, the perfect opportunity is this contactless, right? Is the ability to deliver everything from toilet paper to toothpaste to their doorsteps. And in doing so, develop that that relationship with our customers. I am still blown away by how many brands out there don't know their customers. I say this often to clients. I say, can you name 10 of your customers? And they go, no, we can't, because of privacy and CCPA and GDPR. And I'm like, those are just letters and acronyms. If you just ask someone a question, they'll give you an answer. If you ask your customer, can we contact you? Would you like to sign up to our newsletter? When were you born? What are your social media profiles? That's how we make sure that when the SH1T hits the fan the next time, and we know it will, we are better prepared and better equipped. So you know that old saying that says, hope for the best, plan for the worst, right? Well, I wanted to put my own spin on it. And my message to you is plan for the best and plan for the worst. Screw hope. Hope is not going to get us through. Hoping and praying and just, the ruby red slipper scenario, that is not going to get us where we need to go. But what will get us there is planning, strategic planning. And one of the things that I would also submit to you is we have to also change the time span on how we plan. Because if it is in fact true that survival planning equals strategic planning in an era of short-termism, quarterly earnings, right, risk aversion and constant disruption, well then the message to you is, guess what? If we have to deliver results in quarterly increments, then strategic planning should be done quarterly. So I would offer you this piece of advice. Whether you're using the canvas or using your own techniques, every 3 months, you need to be scenario planning, you need to be contingency planning, you need to have your ear to those railroad tracks and sense any shifts in consumer behavior, in tastes, in insights, in trends, in technology, in your competitive landscape. So I leave you with, good old Charles Darwin said it best, right? He said, it's not the strongest of species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but rather the one that is the most adaptable to change. We will get through this. We will survive. We will thrive. But if and only if we're prepared to change, to embrace our heresy, to harness that instinct, to adapt, or clearly to die. And I hope where you ended up, maybe you might have been a little bit nervous from the beginning, but where, you were worried about the next crisis, and it was like, I hope he's not going to tell us what it is. I don't know what it is. I just know that it is. So I normally end my presentations with this chart that actually says, hey, everybody, if you want to book me for your next offsite or your key or the next keynote or the next event that you're planning, well, guess what? Don't do that because, as I said, there is no next event at the moment. So rather than tell you how you can get hold of me and how you can hire me, I promise you that I would give you something back. And so earlier, I said if you text the word Corona TV to 66866, I would give you stuff. Well, I'll sign you up to the newsletter. I will give you access to those articles that I cited. I'll share with you the Cubby case study. I will send you a webinar, 45-minute webinar, a different one that I did on those 10 pieces of advice with examples. I'll send you the canvas. I'll send you a PDF of this presentation. Of course, if you need a boost, I can offer that to you as well. And hopefully while you're at it, in fact, as I said, in about 16 minutes, you can see more of me if you really are a masochist doing my own pivot on Corona TV. So with that said, we have about 15 minutes left for Q&A, and I really wanted to make sure that I could give you 15 full minutes of answering all your questions. So I'll turn it back to Barbie. And guys, I'm all yours for the next 15 minutes, and quite frankly, for the next hour, if you choose to move over to Corona TV with me and any moment thereafter. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Joe. Great job with this. Reminder again to everyone, you can continue to submit questions now to the Q&A window on your screen. So the first question here is, who do you think is doing a good job right now?
So I always say I've got like a bit of a cynical response sometimes. I go, nobody is, and those that are just have great PR departments. But in this case, I think what I was trying to get across is the fact that we're damned if we do and damned if we don't, in the sense that we're all trying to do a good job. Of course, all of our hearts are in it, but we're all sounding the same and doing the same. But I think there are some clearly amazing examples. I think any company that is actually, it's one of the heresies that I wrote about, which is, are you prepared to leave money on the table, right? And I think companies that are actually giving back, saying, we can't honestly, legitimately take this money from you right now. But even like DoubleTree, this caught my eye the other day. They've given out the recipe. They've actually given away the recipe of their cookies that you get, the chocolate chip cookies when you check in at the hotel. What a great way for them to actually stay relevant, even though they know no one's going to be staying probably at one of their DoubleTrees anytime soon. They're just reminding people about the good times in a sense. So, you know, I didn't want to come across as cynical or too cynical or snarky. I think we all are trying. But at the same time, people are very nervous and very raw and very, you know, I describe this as it's a manic depressive existence right now. The highs are super high and the lows are super low. You know, last night I had another of my moments where I woke up at 2 in the morning and I stayed awake till 5. I didn't know why. I just couldn't sleep. I just was so restless as well. Some mornings you wake up and there's that pit in your stomach and you're just so angry with everyone. And other times, you know, maybe the sun is shining and you're hopeful as well. So even if your customer, even if someone like me is going to wag their finger at you and say you suck or whatever the case may be, allow us to do it. It's part of the healing as well. And so maybe the answer is we're all trying to do a good job, but we also need to recognize that our customers just may not see that intent right now, and that's okay.
Great, thank you. You mentioned heresy earlier. Can you please expand on this concept?
Yeah, so the example of heresy is this idea, and you know, are you prepared to put yourself out of business? Are you prepared to fire yourself? Are you prepared to do a hard reset? What if you gave away your product for free and still no one wanted it? That's, you know, I used to say that was the newsletter industry. Now we're seeing companies giving away their product for free. And at the end of this, people may not want it. But by doing that, at least they can try before they buy and sample it. So the thing about the heresies is that every single one of them that I wrote in Built to Suck, every single one of them has come true. And now I have my students doing that as well, coming up with their own heresies for the Kraft Heinzes and the WeWorks. And it's unbelievable how the kind of thinking, you know, that comes out of this heresy. What if you funded your competitor? What if you actually gave your media dollars to one of your competitors that actually has a compelling message right now to get out? And in so many cases, we actually, as I said to you earlier, we see that these heresies have already come true. You know, there are examples like Netflix, right? The day that they gave, the day that they shipped their billionth DVD, they shut down the service. Or REI closing on a Friday, walking away from, you know, slaughtering the cash cow, leaving money on the table. These heresies allow us to actually spawn completely different decision trees and decision processes and come out at different answers. And I encourage you all to envision your demise, because by doing that, you can, like the phoenix, rise from the ashes.
Thanks. What is your advice in terms of when to return to normal operating policies, for example, waiving late fees?
So I think the message is quite simple, right? Which is, and, you know, I actually I did a little rant. I recorded a little rant a couple of days ago, which I'm actually going to release on my Corona TV in a few moments. And it was about 4 minutes laden with a lot of expletives, and I kind of cut it down to about 1 minute with minimal expletives. And I basically said, look, you're telling me that you care about me. You're telling me that you got my back. You're waiving all of these penalties and surcharges, etc. Suddenly, one day you woke up and you cared. You didn't offer these to me before. You didn't care then. And I'm curious, are you going to care once all of this is kind of back to normal, or are you going to go back to your bad, normal self. So I would challenge you guys to figure out which of these policies you can actually maintain and keep going in perpetuity. One of the things I wrote in Flip the Funnel in my third book is this idea of get out of jail free cards for your customers. So for every 10 years, let's say that you've had a customer's been a customer, you allow them to be late, or you don't hype their or increase their APR if you're a credit card company as well. So you give them the opportunity to play that card. So, in a perfect world, never. You should never go back to the old way. You should be able to say, this is a better way now. This is a better way forward, because we're giving a little bit more, because we're not trapped in these archaic or these policies that maybe were created before we even joined the company as well. So I would challenge you to think about that. And of course, look, it's my belief right now that it's going to take a long time for us to get back to the way things were. Maybe that's a good thing, but there's going to be a lot of psychological scarring and a lot of healing that has to take place. And I imagine that there's going to be a huge lag in terms of consumer spending and in terms of consumer demand. I think anyone getting a check right now from the government is probably not thinking how they're going to spend it by going to the next shopping mall. They're probably thinking that they needed a little bit of a bigger, nest egg or money under the mattress next time. So we need to be prepared for that as well. So thank you for that question.
Great,
any other questions? I would love.
So those are all the questions we have, but do you have anything else you want to mention to attendees before we leave you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the purpose of, and looks like I might be able to actually start my show on time. So should I be thanking you for not asking more questions? But first of all, I appreciate the responses, the polling questions in particular. And I think part of what we need right now is a certain humility and a certain vulnerability. One of the pieces of advice in that article that I'm going to send you afterwards is to be honest and to be transparent and to be vulnerable and say, we don't have all the answers. We're scared as well. We haven't figured it out. But if you're patient with us, then hopefully we can figure this out together. And I think now more than ever, earlier when I spoke to you about being quiet, right, about ceasing and desisting in terms of our natural tendency, which is to talk, which is to be the smartest brand in the room or the wittiest or have the last word or the last laugh. For the first time, we need to respect the silence. We need to respect right now that the world is silent outside. The highways in LA are silent right now. And this silence is cathartic, but it's also very, very powerful as well. And of course, as the old saying goes, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we should use that in the direct proportion it was given. Now is the time to listen. Now is the time to let our customers cry, to be that therapist for them. Now is the time for us to listen and to learn. And if we listen and we learn, we're going to grow. So that's the one thing that I wanted to leave you with. And the other thing is, whatever that next crisis is going to be, shame on us if we're not prepared or better prepared for it. I always use the old analogy, which is you have a car and somebody breaks into your car. I'm from South Africa originally. It used to happen all the time. And they steal your radio. And then, of course, what do you do the next day? You get an alarm for your car, right? Somebody breaks into your home, you get an alarm the next day. You up your insurance. So hindsight is always 20/20. Well, guess what? We're in 2020. We don't need hindsight to realize this year sucks and everything about this year sucks. So we're witnessing it and experiencing it now. And I think when you kind of recognize, as I call it, the survival mindset, is right now we need to make sure that whatever it is that happens next time, we have these plans in place. Even if you look at those 4 growth pillars, the digital disruption, customer obsession, talent resurrection, corporate citizenship, we need to make sure right now that whatever may not be able to identify it in terms of name, but we will clearly be able to see it a mile coming in terms of the force of change, the impact on our companies, on our cultures, on our businesses, on our brands, and on our business models. And I am hopeful that throughout this period, we're all going to be so much more grizzled, smarter, wiser, more street smart, and even book smart as well to weather the next storm. I hope this has been empowering and motivating, and you're not more scared than you were coming into this. I hope, if anything, you're still scared. You need to be scared. It's part of the survival instinct. But if you can manage or balance the fear and the pain with the hunger and the risk, not only will you be balanced, but you will be focused on and moving forward. I saw Jerry just said, great perspective, thank you. No, thank you. Thank you for giving me and us your time today. So I'm going to go live in about 3 minutes on coronatv.show or my Facebook page, and you guys are welcome to continue the conversation. Thank you, guys. Good luck. I'm rooting for you, and I'm in your corner, I assure you.